Welcome back, fellow travelers.
We're here. Is this the start of the podcast?
This is the start of the podcast, man. We are on episode 14, The Witch's Garden.
Yeah, this is a good one. This was a fun episode.
I know.
Very fairy tale centric episode.
I know. Well, I want to get like your gut feelings about it. Like, what, as a first time watcher, this one's a funky one, man. What are your vibes? What are your feels?
My vibes were, I wasn't really sure how to take it the first time. It took me a watch through or two to really understand what it was that I was seeing, to see the value in this episode.
What's the value? Lay it on me.
A little early for the value, Ned. Come on.
The value of the episode.
Let the people get their money.
As it fits into the halfway point in the season. Like what we've learned about Finn and Jake, what we've talked about on the podcast about Finn and Jake. What are you seeing, man? What are you seeing this value in being mid-season, season one?
That this season needs to hurry up so we can get to a season that has more things that are canonical.
Yes, it's not very like arc. It doesn't like connect very well flow of episode because
no, and nothing from any of the previous episodes impacts this episode in really any way that I can tell.
Yeah, the only thing I saw that they repeated like connections was this whole like Jake is willy-nilly with adventuring. He just kind of like, if it's easy, I'll do it. If it's hard, I'll take a seat back.
Yeah,
you know?
He's kind of got a little bit of a lack of willpower, desire type thing going for him.
Yeah, and so it kind of does set it up. I do see Finn as the leader. Like when they're sitting at the river of junk and like Finn has the solution for everything. So that's why we see, I think that this is, again, maybe a core point in the show where we see that like kind of Finn's the leader in this adventuring, even though like he's like, I want to get to the top of that mountain. Jake's got to stretch him up there, but Jake's not going to really come up with those decisions on his own.
I love how you set me up for questions I wasn't ready for just because you had answers to them.
I don't know.
Yourself.
I was thinking because
no, it's good.
If you just watch this episode, for those who are listening, you do see how it's just kind of there. There's the witch, and then there's the garden, and then there's the frog with the king, what do you call it? King's crown.
King's crown, yeah.
And so it's just kind of random. So we gotta work hard to pull out some meat and some girth.
I'm excited about this episode, honestly. The more I thought about it, the more I watched the episode and talked through it with Ali Creates. I can't remember her Instagram for
Ali H Creates.
Ali H Creates, thank you. She created our cover art, and she also was entirely or very helpful for me this episode. But to go off what you were saying, let's talk about Finn and Jake. So Jake I finally read the subtitles to this show, which I don't think I ever read the description or anything like that. Maybe it's just this episode. Jake is 28 years old.
Okay.
But is that human years or is that dog years? It's got to be human years, 28 years old, because it doesn't make any sense for Finn not to remember when he got his powers or anything like that, because Finn is 12 and obviously he would be old enough to remember getting Jake being born from his adopted parents that we saw in a previous episode. What's the timeline?
I don't know. I mean, it's never really directly addressed, I don't think. But if Jake's 28, obviously that would make him 4 in dog years. And Finn is obviously older, or 4 in human years, excuse me.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And then, yeah, Finn is obviously, they're 12 at this point. I think he turns 13 next season or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's like, yeah, you're like, okay, that doesn't line up. So I imagine it is like human years that, subtract that. However, Jake was probably like 10 years old or 15 years old when
okay. I just want to make sure we're
around.
not having any issues with the timeline, because that was getting a little weird for me once I saw that. And then we had this whole segment on how did you get your powers? And, Jake doesn't even remember.
Yeah, Jake, I think that I don't know.
We got some weird dog year ages.
Yeah, I don't
nowadays.
know if the writers specifically left Jake going, I think I rolled in a mud puddle and I think that's how I got my powers, because it is later on addressed why Jake is magical and stretchy. And it's spoiler drop here. Spoiler drop.
Do I want to cover my ears?
It's not mud. That's not how he got his powers.
Well, see, I think we know it was from listening to Puddle of Mud, That's really what I think.
That's what you were thinking about.
That's what they said in the episode, right?
I don't think so.
No, he was listening to the puddle of mud. Can you take it all away? No.
Well, the witch took it all away.
When shoved it in my face, that donut that I didn't really eat.
Shoved in his face. Yeah,
the witch totally put that donut there. That was not something. I don't think it was Jake's subconscious. I mean,
no, man, we just saw it. We just saw it in the last episode where
the boots.
Yeah, Jake's subconscious accidentally stole the boots. Now his subconscious accidentally took the donuts, but it is talking about, we just said, like, he doesn't have much willpower over anything, even proactively doing something or just like grabbing donuts off of bushes.
Well, let's talk about the fairy tale connection then, because I think that'll kind of get to my point of like why I think maybe the witch did it. It seems like to me a trope, or, I'm not an expert by any means, but there seems to be a lot of fairy tale tropes in this episode from the get-go. We have a very first thing is the frog, the little frog carrying a crown, and they're just like waiting for the frog to put the crown on, which isn't a fairy tale thing, but Princess and the Frog, I mean, a frog king, essentially. Yeah, someone's just got to kiss him.
Someone's got to kiss him, and maybe he's something else.
I would love for some fan art. I'm very curious what it looks like when the frog puts the crown on.
I'd love it.
I really need to know. I just love, they're just like tracking behind them. And then next, we go in there and we get a little bit, first we get a little bit of Hanson and Gretel vibes, them kind of like wandering through, boy and a dog, not, brother and sister, wandering through the woods.
The woods and finding a really attractive looking garden full of sweets.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So I have written down right here, it's two kids wandering through the woods, happening upon a fantastical garden full of cupcakes and donuts, where one of the kids is cursed by a witch after, quote unquote, eating something that they shouldn't have, despite having very little context to their wrongdoings. And get this, the punishment doesn't fit the crime. The curse is ridiculous. He ate a donut, and all of a sudden he has no powers and he's got little baby legs.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. The way that she was behaving towards everything, even aggressively towards the bagel in the bush that wasn't supposed to be there,
it was good.
She's got some issues, man. She got some shut in, hasn't had a friend in a millennium kind of issues,
Yeah, and we also get a little bit of Beauty and the Beast vibes.
Oh, I wanted to take that one. Yeah.
All right, what is it? It
was similar to how in Beauty and the Beast, when the father takes the flower or whatever, and the beast flips out and puts him in, like, locks him away or whatever,
Yeah, keep going on that.
So that was the big one, is that it was like, yeah, punishment doesn't fit the crime.
Okay.
From Beauty and the Beast, it was like, yeah, the dad gets put in prison just for like being like, I'm about to die in the snow. And then at the same time, Beauty and the Beast, because the beast himself, for, committing this small act of like when he said no to the lady at the door, and then he's trapped in an ugly, misfigured form forever.
Yeah, he has, and
until amends are made,
Yeah, until he has someone who falls in love with him. And that, my similarity, the parallel there was Jake's subconscious of his powers fading away. His ability to return to his powerful self is slowly fading over time. And he has a little bit of a race against time in order, whether it's like his dog conscious coming on, where he's like trying to get Finn to pet him on the belly and all that in the middle of a fight or whatever. But really his subconscious, you see him starting to fade. And I think he needed to apologize to the witch, or else he would have never had his powers again.
Yeah, but that funny little bit about it is kind of making Jake like inherently a narcissist. The only way that he could save himself was to fall in love with himself. And I think that's very narcissistic.
Well, the way he saved himself was through apologizing, was through actually admitting that he was in the wrong.
He was in the wrong, but then he just like slides away with his subconscious. They like escape, and they're like, "Did you learn your lesson?" Nope. See ya.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe that was his take. Maybe you're right. Maybe his take was that he fell more in love with himself, in the sense that he was able to take what the witch wanted him to learn and manipulate it against her.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't really. I just wasn't really sure. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting thing, the pride that Jake has in this episode. But you mentioned my lovely and I think we should go ahead and touch it real fast.
Drop some lovelies out, baby.
Give me some sugar, baby.
My lovely for this episode is the bagel.
The bagel with the little tidy whitey legs.
He just wants to be a donut, man. He snuck into the garden and he's just trying to be a donut.
Just trying to be a donut. Is it snuck into the garden, or are there also like sneaky bagel bushes that are they like the weeds of the donut bushes?
They might be. I kind of took it as, because we don't see any other donut or any other bagels, I took it as him kind of like sneaking into the garden, hopping on the tree and hoping no one would see, and he just wants to be a donut. And I'm just loving it, to quote Jake, and I think my only issue with it, he's still my lovely. My only issue is, why did they have to give the donut or the bagel nipples?
Because
why is the bagel need nips?
Because Jake mentioned, he's like, I used to have 8 of these when he was talking about his nipples.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of aligned with the artwork on how they wanted to portray the magic spell.
Maybe the witch. The witch is a perv. That's what I'm believing.
Yeah, she's creepy, man.
Is she more creepy than the mermaid at the river?
No, I was gonna say, if I had an anti-lovely of the episode,
most punchable?
It was the mermaid of that. Yeah, it's definitely most punchable and anti-lovely, kind of all wrapped up in one. But like, my question for you, I just was thinking about fun questions that would spark a conversation. When they go to the junk river, right? You can see there's big pillars of like interstate in the background and like all this human trash, essentially. So like, this is very much kind of fitting within that post-apocalyptic realm. So what, if anything, was the mermaid pre-apocalypse? Was she just a normal mermaid? Is this like a new evil guardian? But like, it's a mermaid that lives in a river of trash.
And she's not really a mermaid in any way. She's just a skeleton-bodied, like Medusa-esque character, siren type.
It's like
thing.
Like an oppo mermaid, because like mermaids have flippers but no legs, and she doesn't have arms, but she's got like little hands on her hair.
Yeah,
so like a flip flop mermaid,
and she has legs. She doesn't have a fin. But
yeah,
I don't know. I didn't catch that. I'm glad you brought that up, because again, that's like one of those things where these episodes fly by, and even though I watched it 3 or 4 times or whatever, like I didn't really see the road. I was so focused on the adventure at hand, and I wasn't really looking at the background. But I'm sure there's something there, right? I mean, maybe it's just, I don't know. It's
either something just like it's a tout to like humans kind of used to be around here, and it makes you start to like watch all these episodes and kind of be like, how did any of this happen? Like what about some apocalypse happened that would put a skeleton mating creepy mermaid in a river of trash? And
the entire world. The entire world needs a lot of explaining, and we're not getting any of that this season.
No, there's even kind of, when the show kind of comes to a wrap, there's not explanations for everything. There's not a layout.
Well, that's good.
This character is this. This character is this. It's really for probably our tier A characters that all have the backstory.
Yeah, and even then, you don't really need it. I think every great story leaves a little bit of like a desire.
It leaves a little bit of what you have to theoretically think about.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. The mermaid of the river. She's just not really a mermaid in any way. She's not really sexy in any way. Which I guess for some reason in my mind, mermaid's sexy. They gotta be, right? And then also, and she plays it up. She's like, which one of you mortals wants to mate with all of this? And the answer is no one. No one wants to.
No one wants to.
Obviously,
obviously her little babies are like bird creatures.
Yeah.
So obviously something mated with her
I
that
guess
was
so.
bird-like. And so that's kind of not a fun thing to think about.
But she also doesn't have any like irresistible powers. That's the other thing that mermaids or sirens typically have, is they have something about, despite how ugly they might actually be, like in
something that is truly alluring to you.
There's the singing, or there's something that you just literally can't physically resist.
Yeah.
That like Jake should have been like full on, like knowing his willpower or lack thereof, he should have just been full on like, I am totally enamored by.
So she's not a mermaid, she's like a merdemon.
Yeah, or a siren, like a lady of the mist or whatever, Yeah, I was curious about that. And I don't know if you want to talk about this now or after a little break, but I would love to talk about something.
Would you like to talk about something? Well, let's go to a little break. But before we have our ad, I do want to have you chew on a little something. I did come up with when you had the Jiggler episode. You were just like, what's the Jiggler make you think? And you had a little. It was a baby Jiggle Boy, Mama Juice time. And I had one for Chubby Jake here. It was creepy baby tidy whitey magic no mo dog man.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I had to think about it because baby Jake, baby man Jake is really creepy. Kind of like it doesn't and like the whole time like Finn could have offered him a pair of pants and like he was like no
anything. Yeah, he was so kind of gross, but his charisma won me. Like I almost made him my lovely because his charisma was so good.
He might have been my lovely, even though it's kind of like a weird, creepy animation. Like little baby boy Jake is maybe my lovely of the episode. So I had an anti one, now I have a real one. But let's let the sponsors kind of sneak an ad in here. We all know the nostalgic flavors of grandmother's homegrown garden pastries. And to bring that taste of childhood back to your own home, come on down to Bertel Billingsley's Bagels, Biscuits, and Donut Shrubbery. From strawberry filling to crispy caramel, and even down to as simple as a plain cream cheese bagel, you won't be sad when you and your children can enjoy the childhood splendors of a scrumptious, homegrown breakfast sweet. Disclaimer. Bertel Billingsley is not responsible for the consumption of dirt, leaves, worms, wasps, ticks, bugs, or ants while eating your breakfast Crispies.
I just want bagels, Dad.
What you mean you want bagels?
I just need bagels.
Well, get on outside and pluck yourself a few.
Where do you get the bagels?
You go down to Bertel Billingsley's Bagel Shrubbery.
Oh, there's no witch there, for the witch is going to eat me.
Oh, there's quite a few wishes. You got to beat off a couple of them.
Why do we have different accents? I don't even know what I'm sounding like.
Because you're a little wanker, that's what you are.
Oh, Dad, I'm crying to Mom. Mom!
Man on up and do what I did as a kid. You go down there, you plant your own freaking donut bush.
Be nice to our son.
Hey, you shut up, lady.
Okay.
You get out in the garden and harvest me a couple of cream cheeses, eh?
Welcome to the bagel shop, where we got your bagels.
We got homegrown bagels.
They hired an American for this shop.
No, you fucking wanker.
I don't actually work here. Welcome, fellow travelers.
Again.
Yeah, again. We just had an advertisement. It's not the beginning of the episode. But I was prepared this time, and I was not prepared at the beginning of this episode. So,
well, hit me with what you got, baby.
Ned, can you smell poison? Because I don't know, Jake couldn't.
I don't know. It did, like, are farts poisonous?
Farts
to a degree?
They may be at a high content level.
I can smell that.
If someone really stuck you in a room and boxed you up, and then like if
carbon monoxide fart poisoning.
If they could hold it in and just, line up like a large lineup of men or something like that, that'd be some serious torture that I don't want to be a part of.
Smell poison?
Yeah, you could then. I ended up watching some weird like Hank Green videos on YouTube.
I don't know what the heck
about
that
poison.
Is, man.
Well, you know Hank Green. He's like a figurehead for the science community on YouTube, and now he's taking over TikTok, and everything's about Hank Green. Ned, come on, your age is showing.
Yeah, big time.
He's like Neil deGrasse Tyson or
okay. Well, hit me with what he said.
The science guy. He's
what
like
do you say, man?
What
do you say?
He may be more legitimate. I don't mean to diss Hank Green, but he told me that arsenic. I just thought this was interesting. We don't need to take forever on this, but arsenic is something that, like, as far as like you can't smell it. Like there are a lot of poisons out there that like you actually can't smell. And arsenic's interesting because it's a metalloid, and you could kill someone after small doses over a long amount of time. But I just thought it was weird because Finn encourages Jake to just go sniff up the donut, whatever. Like, I don't know if you could die from sniffing, like inhaling poison like that,
off the donut, especially if they were powdered. If they were powdered donuts, he's done.
He would definitely get some stuff. Yeah. And then also I wanted to just say Hank Green recommends cyanide if you're trying to kill someone as well.
Well, you know that witch was using something funk on those donuts.
I'm kidding. That was a joke. Hank Green isn't telling people how to kill people. But it was a really good video.
Is that your beef? Is your beef this week with Hank Green?
Yeah, I think your beef needs to be with Hank Green because I think, no, Hank Green's beef is with you.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Because everybody, come on, Dad, everybody knows Hank Green. Right. So, and then the other thing I want to talk about is the little rescue mission that Jake gets sent on, you know.
Yeah, tell me about that, bro.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm comparing it to Star Wars a little bit here.
Okay.
And yeah, I impede your interest there.
Okay, I'm listening, baby.
So Finn is captured, and we see the eggs start to crack, and we see the bird beaks coming out, and it should just be like he is maybe 30 seconds from death. And then half the episode goes by, and Jake comes back, and he's still alive, and he's fine. He was knocked out by the mermaid's like poison breath or whatever it was. I have poison on my mind now. And the like sludge that she spits on him. And then those birds should have destroyed him by then. And what do you think?
You just know it's one of those like it throws you off in different movies and shows where like technically it's like those two stories are happening and you're like, how did he get there? It's like they're happening at the same time.
Do you have the Star Wars? Do you know what I'm about to say?
I'm trying to think, man. It's maybe when
I can give you a hint.
I'm thinking it's when Han leaves and comes back and saves them on the Death Star because he's like, I'm too cool to save you.
I was thinking more modern. Think a movie that I didn't really enjoy that much.
Oh,
The Last Jedi.
The Last Jedi. Yeah, it was probably my least favorite. The best.
If you watched it once, you may not get it.
The best ending of the new ones. It was by far the best ending for the new ones. But
you thought so?
Yeah. When they have the Force Luke ghost fight thing, that was pretty epic.
Yeah.
Every other bit of that character development, it was just like overly Disney-fied.
I've got so many issues with that. I even have issues with the Force Ghost Luke thing. I mean, that was the climax for Luke Skywalker, the greatest Jedi of all time. Anyways, I was going to compare it to Finn and Rose. Finn and Rose, when Finn is going to go sacrifice, he turns around, he's going head into the Space Nazis giant ship, also known as the First Order. And we see a giant clip of they are flying away. And then Rose turns around and then all of a sudden perpendicular to the beam that Finn is flying through and comes at him from his side and stops him. And then they make out or they kiss for a second.
And then they run like 2 miles back to the
Not
base.
even that, dude. Rose is passed out and Finn drags her back.
Yeah.
Before the Space Nazis get to the rebels.
That's what it reminded you of because of the time gap that didn't line up there. Okay, that makes sense.
Doesn't line up at all.
That always did bug me. So I'm picking out what you're putting down.
I'm being a little dramatic, but I think after I started seeing the comparison with Star Wars, it just got me hyped. And I was just like, this is dumb. I want to talk about this to a bigger audience than just my girlfriend. So
well, that's why you're doing a podcast.
Brought it to the podcast. Yeah, man. And then the other thing I kind of wanted to mention was we get back on that pride train. I mean, we all have something of the 7 deadly sins that we struggle with. And Jake is, certainly someone who is susceptible to maybe multiple of them, maybe sloth, maybe pride, maybe gluttony.
This episode specifically, I think I wanted to address like the sloth and the pride.
Yeah.
And I mean, both of those are my lessons this week. If we want to start dropping in like what we learned, dropping in lessons over here, lay it on me. Well, one of them was just like literally, you got to be humble, man. Like pride only will get you stuck in bad situations. And although Jake ends up being quote unquote sorry, he's still prideful at the end. He's like, nah, I'm not sorry. But like the whole reason that they even were in a predicament was that Jake wouldn't apologize for...
Couldn't express humility. Mm-hmm. I mean, if he had apologized and taken the high road, whether he actually stole and ate the donut himself or not, it all would have been avoided.
Yeah, man. I mean, I dealt like with tons of situations in college where like somebody would like bust in our like house and be like, where's my hat? And they'd be like, oh, it's over there. And be like on the floor. And somebody would be like, why's my hat on the floor? That's the biggest deal. I'm so angry. And be like, then like somebody would be like, well, I knocked it off and blah, blah, blah. And your stuff was everywhere. And I was like, bro, just say sorry, man. Just be like, oh, sorry. Your hat's on the floor. Like, that's my bad. I apologize.
Well, much like...
And nobody it's like such a hard muscle to flex, is it just being like, oh shoot, like I made a mistake, I'm sorry, you know?
Yeah, well, much like, sorry, I'm just going off into my point. Much like fairy tales, there is a lesson to be learned, and that's why I think a little bit that they had to go on the journey, or the witch, Mrs. Witch, kind of requires them to go on that journey, because it would not have been an authentic apology if he had just gone, oh yeah, I'm sorry, you know, like she says she could tell or whatever, but I think it actually required, you know, a crisis situation with Finn for him to like almost learn his lesson, which we talked about earlier.
I would have thought that Jake would have learned somewhat of a lesson in the City of Thieves when his subconscious stole the boots, and that messed up their whole mission.
Yeah.
Now this pride point, I was like, okay, it does get to a certain point where, yeah, there's a journey to go on, but like learn your lesson from that, man. Like,
yeah. Well, I think he lacks like the willpower. Like I think we saw it in business time with his laziness, his desire not to work and have other people do it for him. We saw it in Lumpy Space when he in no way resisted the lumps that were taking him over. He was just like down with it. Evicted with Marceline, where he was just afraid and had no willpower to fight until again Finn was in danger. And then again we saw it
in Wizards,
the City of Thieves. Well,
in Wizards, because Jake was just asleep the whole time.
Happy to sleep.
He was being lazy. He got extra magic powers, got extra lazy, got his mayonnaise, and then Finn's over there. Doesn't wake up until the city basically explodes.
City of Thieves, we saw it with his, and that was the biggest one, his lack of ability to fight off the urge to steal, you know?
Yeah.
He does have a lot of great qualities. I mean, his transparency and his self-awareness. I mean, quite frankly, and the show's undying flame of hope, which is friendship. Like, I do love those things about Jake, but it does bother me a little bit that he has this like just lack of like motivation or desire outside of friendship. And I want to see that growth a little bit with him.
Yeah, and there is a lot of personal growth that happens with Jake through the show. You see it when like I can't spoiler drop all those things. I was about to probably just start dropping out too many things, but there's a lot of like moments in the show where Jake realizes that like because of the way he is, he needs to like change. There's a great episode for all of my like big time listeners out there when Jake and Finn try to do like the same adventure but separately because they're like mad at each other, and Finn is like kicking butt through it but is getting all these tasks that would really help if he had Jake's magical powers, and Jake's getting all these tasks that he's just like he doesn't have the brain strength to like care about them and be the leader, like we were talking about Finn being like taking the lead in the creative solutions. And it's really, and so both of them kind of learn their need for each other there, which I think is really cool. But I see what you mean, like not getting themselves in such a tight situation where at the last minute the only thing that motivates him is Finn's about to die. Because I don't want to be in 1,000 situations where I have to be almost dying for someone to save me.
Yeah,
you know. So I know what you mean, and that goes on like another final lesson of mine, kind of being like magic would make you lazy, man. I feel
you think so?
Yeah, like if you had crazy magic powers and kind of almost any like superhero, not superhero-esque, but like kind of like you get magic powers, like what are you going to do? Like the Jumper movie I just watched recently with Hayden Christensen. He gets really lazy.
Another Star Wars reference.
He just jumps across the couch to get the remote and doesn't use doors, jumps through the wall. And then when he can't do that all the time, like life gets hard. And so I don't know. It's like kind of like if you had magic powers and then lost them, you got to like relearn how to not.
Yeah, he's like, I thought running was magical or something. You know, I thought leg magic, I think he says.
Well, I thought running was leg magic.
Man, I'm ready to, after this, we're about to go watch Stanley's Cup. We're going to go see the Preds take on Stanley's Cup.
Yeah, Stanley the Watermelon's Cup.
No, actually, Lord Stanley of Preston. He's, come on, Canada's 6th Governor General.
No, I'm talking about Stanley the Watermelon, dog.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about, the hockey game.
Yeah.
Anyways, do you have any other lessons for me?
Man, I think my only other lesson was just kind of how the show ended, man. And it was in a crunch. There's nothing I wouldn't do for you, brother.
That's good.
That was a lesson, man.
Good lesson.
That's what Jake says. And I was like, man, that's how you live with bros. If you're in a crunch, there's nothing I wouldn't do for you. And I freaking love that. I love that's how they polished off the episode, you know?
I do too. My lesson is a little weird this week. Usually I come up with something quick quick and
Quit and quitty.
yes, that thing that you just said. This week it's going to be a little longer. I got something interesting. If this does not pique your interest, hey man, skip it. Talking about fairy tales, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how ridiculous the ending. Like in this episode, Jake doesn't really learn his lesson, but the ending lesson or moral or the wrap up for a lot of fairy tales is kind of ridiculous. Like the actual one, historically speaking, if you're cool with me doing this for a second.
I want to see where you're going with this.
Okay, so the first one is Hansel and Gretel by the brothers Grimm. This is their telling of that story. The final line of the story is, "My story is done. See the mouse run. If you catch it, you may make yourselves a great big fur cap out of it." And mouse is reference to Hansel and Gretel, the kids. So the final moral to this is, hey, if you catch a kid, like you could create a giant hat out of the kid. Like it's chill. This was a little longer, but this one was really good too. Sleeping Beauty by Charles Perrault, I believe you pronounce it. The moral: a brave and rich, handsome husband is a prize well worth waiting for, but no modern woman would think it was worth waiting for 100 years. The tale of the Sleeping Beauty shows us how long engagements make for happy marriages, but young girls these days want so much to be married. I do not have the heart to press the moral. I couldn't tell you why or what that is.
That seems like a cop-out. That's big time.
That's Sleeping Beauty's moral. Like long engagements are great, but girls these days just don't want to do it.
And so what would the abridged moral to this story be like? Hey man, it doesn't matter if you don't do what you're told. If you're witty enough, you can get free donuts. That's kind of like a...
You pretty much nailed it. Here's mine. Okay. So this is the second one I wrote, but talking about pride. Be aware of the prideful mind. While with power and glory are literally at your fingertips, you just got to reach out. And perfect life is totally plausible with enough positive thinking. We all die. Is my first one. Yeah. The next one, now that this podcast is done and we drank and we had all our fun, beware of the witch, especially if you're rich, for forever you'll live on the run. Is another one that I wrote.
That sounds like a little more like a little Alice in Wonderland type chapter ending there.
And the last one is, if conscious thought is man's best friend, then their simple pride is the devil within. Your internal insecurities have no end if you live a life drenched in sin. For a man with a boat crosses the river as he may. A man with a float drinks and parties every day.
In his tidy whities.
And those are my lessons, my little end of this fairy tale wrap ups. Thank y'all so much. Another wonderful episode.
Another one in the books.
Yeah, another part of our adventure, our journey through life in this podcast with you guys.
Yeah, man. And if you've stuck around for this long, I'm pretty pumped. Next week, we're going to be talking about Neptune, which is an awesome, just reoccurring character through the show. You've like makes it all the way to the last episode and is kicking butt. And so we're getting into some canon season 1 material next week.
There we go. Great. About time. Let's do it.
Thanks again, guys.
Yes. Follow us on Instagram, Never Ending Adventure Podcast, TikTok at Never Ending Adventure Cast, and Twitter, NEA_podcast. Hit us up. I'd love to have like an audience section to this podcast if it made sense.
We'll engage with you. We'll talk with you. Send us some sound bites of questions you have. Send us some sound bites of comments you have. We'll play them on the show, and we'll do if we can get enough of them to cram into some episodes. We'll get a good like fan section episode going. We want to hear it, man.
Oh, that'd be fun. All right.
Kisses to you guys. I love you. You've stuck around and heard our sounds and listened to our nonsense. Don't be alarmed or bring us harm or hate us with subconscience. We did our best and stood the test of Finn and Jake's sweet rhymes. So stick around and hear the rest on Never Ending Adventure next time.